Hello, my name is Dr. Doran O'Donnell. Today I'll be talking to you about a theory of relationships that's called social exchange theory. Social exchange theory basically states that we view relationships in a series of exchanges or transactions between individuals within a relationship. And those transactions are given values of either a positive value, a reward, or a negative value, a cost within the relationship. And that we compare rewards versus cost to decide if we want to stay in a relationship. Today I'll be talking about those basics of this theory, and I hope by the time I finish this lecture you have a better understanding of social exchange theory and how it impacts relationships. In an ideal world, we would have all of our needs met by the other person within a relationship. However, we never have an ideal world. You're never going to find somebody that meets all of your needs and satisfies all of your desires. It's just not going to happen. So what we need to do is we need to create a list of expectations, or we need to look at our expectations of the relationship and what we are going to get out of it from the other person, whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, or even an acquaintance. So on the next two slides, I created a little handout that you can use to help you analyze your relationships. It has a list of expectations that you can look at, and these aren't, this is not an exhausted list. You can look at these expectations and you can place value on ones that are most important to you. And since we're all different, we all have different priorities for what we want or expect within a relationship. And within the theory of social exchange, Tybo and Kelly talk about what's called the comparison level. And this comparison level is exactly that. It's our baseline for what our expectations are within the relationship. So let's take a look at this list, and then we'll move on and talk about the comparison level, and we'll talk about the actual theory itself. So here's the handout that I created, first page. So if you look at expectations that we have within a relationship, or the comparison level that we have going into a relationship, I do think there are some specifically some core expectations and some healthy foundations that most of us view are important within a relationship. For example, I don't feel I should be obligated to be in a friendship. I believe that it should be voluntary, and that I should feel as an equal to the other, and they should feel as an equal to me. Also, I believe that there are emotional and relational desires that I have. I think that ideally, my partner, whether they're my friend or my romantic partner, I want to enjoy activities with them. I want to go do things. I don't just want to sit at home and talk to them via the telephone. I think that shared values or interests or worldviews helps make it easier to manage that relationship. So I think that those might carry some level of importance for at least me in my own life. And then there are also some practical aspects. For example, if I need to go to the doctor and to have a surgery and I don't have a ride, I expect my best friend will take me. And if they don't, well, then maybe they're not my best friend. And as I stated, we not only have our expectations, we have our ideals. And what our ideals are what we desire the most, or what would be make us the most happy. So ideals or personal hopes or deeper desires, this is what we often wish our friends to be. And so, for example, I put here that we want our best friends to be safe. We want them to be safe space, have a safe person. We want to grow together. Well, I want to try to get their needs met while they get my needs met. And we want to a balance between being close and me having some level of autonomy. I can be away from them when I want to be, and it's not going to affect our relationship. So we have to balance our ideals with our expectations. And this handout can have you do a little introspect on what your own desires and own needs are, and what your own ideals are within a relationship, and whether those ideals are tangible or not. As I stated before, the basic arguments of social exchange theory is that we view relationships as a series of social exchanges of rewards and costs. Rewards are the benefits we get out of our interactions with others, and the costs are the drawbacks from those interactions. So social exchange theory also argues that we seek to maximize our rewards and minimize our costs. And the more we can maximize the rewards within a relationship, the happier we are within that relationship. But as we stated earlier, we do have a comparison level or a benchmark for what we believe we deserve or expect from our relationships. And as the relationship develops, these needs are sustained when partners choose to meet each other's needs. And if they don't, then more costs start creeping in, which can harm a relationship. But you may be asking yourself, I know people that are in relationships that aren't happy. And why are they staying in that relationship? They definitely have more costs in that relationship than they have rewards. Well, Tybo and Kelly also talk about the alternatives for being in the relationship. And they basically say that we also not just compare the rewards and costs of being in the relationship, we also compare the rewards and the costs of exiting that relationship. So if I'm in an abusive relationship, for example, but the costs of being outside of that relationship are more extreme, like being homeless or losing my children, I may choose to stay in that relationship even though I'm unhappy. So they call that the comparison level of alternatives. And interestingly, sometimes people leave relationships that they already have a high value in, that they enjoy the relationship, they have great rewards, very little costs. But sometimes, well, we've all heard the term, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. Like, for example, we go off to college, we may leave our romantic relationships to go off to college because we expect to meet new people and to have a new life and a new career, and maybe create more meaningful relationships in the future than those that we have right now. So, comparison level of alternatives basically states that we look at the alternatives of being in that relationship and whether they outweigh being in that relationship or not. And that helps us decide whether to stay or to go. Today we talked about social exchange theory. We talked about the comparison level, which is the benchmark that we have regarding our expectations of the perceived rewards and costs of being in a relationship. We also talked about what rewards are. They're the positive mental, physical, and instrumental elements of a relationship, and also what the costs are. Negative elements such as stress, unwanted obligations, or even not getting our basic needs met by the other person. And we also, the theory also, we talked about how we weigh the value of the rewards with that of the costs to determine our happiness level within the relationship. And the argument, of course, is that if the rewards outweigh the costs, then we'll stay in the relationship because we're happy. And if the costs outweigh the rewards, then we will leave the relationship. But as we also noted with this theory, it's not quite that simple. Sometimes outside resources also have an effect on us. So we're likely to compare the benefits and drawbacks of our alternatives, which Tybo and Kelly call the comparison level of alternatives, before choosing to end a relationship. So today I hope you learned a little bit about how we view relationships in our terms of happiness and in the exchange of rewards versus costs. And I hope that you'll take some time and look back at that handout that I had on slides 3 and 4 to compare what is important to you within relationships and if your partner or you are meeting each other's needs. Thank you.